Good evening. And good evening to the online viewers. A beautiful group has gathered this evening, and I'm very happy to welcome us all to Satsang, to a talk of awakening. And hopefully also an experience of awakening. Because whatever we're going to talk about means very little unless it can be actually experienced, even touched on, even glimpsed into. And what we're doing here today is not to learn something. It's not, this kind of evenings are definitely not about learning a particular subject. I could honestly talk about anything tonight. It's not about the particular subject, it's more about the shift of perspective. Ordinarily, in our daily life, we have a certain perspective, a personal, private, individual perspective. And here together we have the chance to broaden our perspective in almost an overwhelming way. But to return from this perspective to our daily life is actually the meaning of transformation. When we touch something that is so broad, so big, and from that we suddenly have a different context for our daily life, for our experience, for our happiness, our sorrow, our joys, our pleasures, and our frustrations, everything included. And this shift of perspective is a profound broadening of our sense of identity and a profound broadening of our sense of meaning. I don't know if you've ever had the chance to go to a planetarium where you get the chance to suddenly realize the vastness of the universe, and that the fact that this universe is not just a word, it is a tremendous thing in which we're actually living. We're part of it. So this is a sort of a planetarium. We are expanding our vision, seeing planet Earth from a very far distance, and that releases us from a great deal of attachment and fear and a sense of limitation. Before we are going to enter at all today's talk, let us meditate. Let's get in touch experientially with whatever we're going to talk about. And for that, of course, I would ask you to close your eyes. And take one deep breath. Then breathe slowly and deeply. And relax more and more with every breath we take. So let us focus for a moment on our sense of I am. We always say, I am this name. I am this face that I see in the mirror. I am a German, a Jew, an American. I am straight, I am gay, bisexual. I am a man. I am a woman. I am happy. I am sad. But all these identities mean that at the very root of our existence, before all these identities came into being, there was simply a pure feeling of I am. Before anything else, I am. Not even I am here or I am there. I am in Germany or on planet Earth. Just like a tree with many branches. First there is the I am, and then there are the many identities and states and feelings. So feel how you're going back, in a way moving backwards, all the way to this pure sense of I am, pure presence. Even not I am a teacher, I am a seeker, I am in Satsang, just I am. Breathe into this sense of self-existence, pure presence. But then realize that just as you feel I am, in the same way everyone here feels that. We all share this sense of I am. Some of us say, I am a woman, some say, I am a man. Some German, some American, but at the root of it all, essentially, there is only one sense of presence. And again, just like a tree, all of our different I am, different identities are like many branches. Ask yourself, is this sense of I am really in me? Or am I in it? Is it really inside my body? Or is it like a sense of presence in space? Try for a moment to really let yourself get in touch with this. I am moved to the very origin of this sense. Realize that to a certain extent it's not placed in one point, that it can expand. Perhaps even be everywhere. Who says I am? So with this sense of expanded self-presence, you can slowly and gently open your eyes, come out of the meditation. You see, there are two ways to experience identity in this life. We can gather around this sense of I am, which we all share, right? This I think we can agree on. Gather around this sense of I am many types of small and temporary identities, right? And this is what we all do. Obviously, I am in this lifetime apparently a man, right? And apparently I am a spiritual teacher. Apparently I'm a writer. Apparently I'm a father. Apparently I'm in Germany, and so on and so on. And this is how slowly our sense of I am becomes quite fat. It's like it's eating many identities, and eventually it can hardly move. Of course, we all have something really, really unpleasant and disappointing at the end of the way, right? At the end of the road, there is an experience that is called death. And in death, this entire set of identities around our I am is going to collapse, it's going to fall away. And we cannot take it with us. We cannot take the spiritual teacher. I certainly cannot take my manhood. I cannot take my my existence in Germany and so on. I cannot take any of that. I need to return slim. So now, either this happens by force, which means that death takes away our identities, or we begin to ask ourselves sincerely this question, this ultimate spiritual question, which is, who am I? And that means, what is this I am? Is it something that is really temporary, local, specific, individual? Or perhaps it's something else? And the degree to which this question burns in you or disturbs you or agitates you or excites you is basically the degree to which you are, let's say, hungry spiritual beings. You see? Because this is when we want to find at the root of our existence something that is perhaps beyond the temporary, beyond the changing, that makes us real, passionate, spiritual. I don't like the word seekers, let's say questioners. That's what happened to me almost 20 years ago. one day, in a certain retreat, in a silence retreat, I sat at a certain spot in a certain occasion. I will not enter the small details. But then at a certain moment, without even much intention, I looked back into this sense of self that I used to have, that was made of all those identities, and couldn't find anything that was substantial. So the first thing was that this sense of I am got rid of all the identities at once. It didn't have anything that was specific, anything that was personal. Of course, when that happens, it always comes as a sort of a shock. It's when we are already prepared emotionally, mentally, it is a blissful shock. It is beautiful, it is wonderful, it is a total release, a total freedom. But then what happened to me a moment later, and that was when I could look into my line of memories, my chain of memories, and just couldn't find there any self that I used to identify. There were just memories, but there was no body that owned them. They just happened. Then I remember I dragged myself forcefully to a certain spot because I was in a public area, and it's not exactly the ideal environment for such shocks. And I moved to a more solitary area in there, because I was in the area of a desert with the sea. There I suddenly realized that this sense of I am is not inside me. It's not something that I had. It's something that was everywhere. I could find the very sense, this very same sense of I am in the rocks, in the sea, in the waves, in the sky, in the people that were on the beach. It was more of a universal sense of I am. And this is where what I hinted at our meditation. In our meditation, we allow this sense of I am to stand apart, to stand without anything, without attributes, without qualities, without identities. And how much energy people waste on explaining and relating to their identities. You know, people can spend a whole lifetime dealing with their womanhood, or with their manhood, or with their Germanhood, or Americanhood. And people can actually spend a whole lifetime on this temporary identity that surrounds their sense of I am. That's why they always come to death unprepared. But we also said in the meditation, now just take a look, perhaps, just perhaps, and this is something that is very difficult to digest, perhaps my I am is the same I am as here, as here, as here, as here. Perhaps essentially what we think that we possess as a sort of self-existence, my self-existence, is actually more at the root of it a universal identity, a universal being. And all of our small I ams, with all of their small identities, this is like a father, and then there is a children, there are children, and then there are grandchildren. You see? But perhaps when we really go into this question, who am I? What is at the root of this I am? But for that we need to strip all of our identities for some time. And I know that some of you are already worried, and I will answer in a second. But when we strip it and we begin to look into it, perhaps we are going to realize that it's universal and not personal. And that's probably the greatest transformation that could happen in human consciousness. This shift from the personal to the universal. And I'm saying, I promised, I know that some of you are already worried that then we are losing our manhood, our womanhood, our Germanhood, or whatever, or our fatherhood or our motherhood. But rest assured, these identities as a temporary experience stick to you as long as you're alive. Right? Right now, I must play my identity as a spiritual teacher, otherwise I will not even know how to speak, because it makes no sense. What if I don't have a role in this situation, an identity? There is no relationship, nothing of the connectivity of life. So now that we've agreed that these identities anyway stick to you, we say this is still not what you are or who you are. And as I stood there in the desert, first of all, witnessing my whole experience of self collapse and die away, and then realizing that this very personal, self-contained experience of I am, which was I am Shai, I'm this and I'm that, actually didn't belong to me and didn't start in me. It didn't start in this body, but in a way, this I am is spoken, is uttered by the universe, or by existence itself. It's like this I am is like a distant sound coming all the way from the beginning of time. And not at all a personal thing that is going to die in me one day. This I am is not going to die. Only this form is going to die. That is, unfortunately, with all my attachment, it must die. And when we begin to realize that it must die, this form must die, we also understand that we could never really find a meaning in life when it is connected to this personal self-existence, because this, as a form that's going to die, it's what is its meaning. We can, of course, invent along the way. We can invent missions and tasks and certain destinations and things that are going to fulfill ourselves. But eventually, death tells us, hey, the meaning of life doesn't even belong to you. Forget about it. And I'm going to say a very strange sentence. I will try to explain it. Hopefully I will succeed. And the sentence is that life doesn't happen to you. You happen to life. And this is a very unbelievable realization. When we see trees and plants, it's very obvious for us, right? Nobody thinks that this plant has a life of its own, right? Do you? That the plant has its own, somehow it managed to create itself, to do itself, and that it possesses its own life. It's all very obvious to us that this plant came out of life, and that this plant is an expression of life. But somehow, when it comes to us, we think we're special. The thing is that basically all our experience of suffering, not pain, suffering. When I say suffering, it's different from pain, because pain, I can have pain in my neck. But suffering is the feeling of that something is essentially wrong about my life, that I can't find my place, that my life lacks meaning, or that the feeling that I'm lost. Suffering is when I have pain and pleasure and they mean nothing. It's like I don't understand what is it all for, and it all looks random and arbitrary. So when it comes to us, for some reason we think that life happens to us. And this feeling that life happens to us makes us tremendously busy with ourselves. We all day long are busy with ourselves. right? We are busy with our dreams and our hopes and our miseries and our sufferings and our wishes and our concerns, and there is very little room for something that is connected to the bigger life. This is why I told you at the beginning, this sense of planetarium, this sense of being able to feel myself within the context of a vast, shockingly vast universe, like this tremendous thing that I, as a form, only happen to. I am just sprouting from it, and that I belong to it and not to myself. Imagine that for even for a moment you could experience your life in the right proportions to the universe. Could you for a second? Try to even play with it as a thought experiment. Just, it's amazing that science is now endlessly trying to convince us, but it doesn't penetrate our psyche to convince us that the universe consists of these hundreds of billions of galaxies, in which there are, of course, hundreds of billions of stars, and this psychologically should have somehow changed our perception that we are not the center of the universe. Somewhat to get the sense that, oh, okay, so it can't be. But for some reason, in our daily life, we constantly experience that we are the center of the universe, that it's like all the stars, all the galaxies look at us with worry. What's going to happen with Shai? Is he going to get what he wanted? Is he going to get the partner that he dreamt of? Is he going to be happy today? And of course, we all start like that. It makes sense. It's okay to start at the beginning to be very concerned. But as we mature and as we begin to inquire into the nature of existence, we can actually begin to move away from this self-centeredness. And it's not so easy in our age, you see, because before our age, and I'm not nostalgic about it, before our age, we used to have religions. And religions told us you are not the center of the universe. God is the center of the universe. So you need to pray, you need to devote, to worship, to be humble. But now that we don't have it, all the energy has moved to us. And sometimes, even when I meet people that are spiritual, I realize that they very often confuse this self-inquiry with self-obsession. They begin to be so immersed in their process, in their journey, and how they feel and how they sense and what happens to them, and the experience that happened to them and what it means, and eventually we reach exactly the opposite of what the spiritual journey is all about. It's all about moving away from self-centeredness to a degree that eventually you have absolutely nothing to say about yourself. You are not self-occupied at all. To other people, you will even seem boring, because you will not have a story to tell. You see? You will not have a drama. You will become available. And many people on the spiritual journey, they think, oh yes, one day I will become available, but to become available, I first need to immerse in my journey, in my concerns, and think and and inquire and understand, and so on and so on. But this day doesn't come because we just become even more tangled in self-concern. So it's very important to bear in mind that spirituality is essentially freedom, liberation from self-concern. And if you want to hit the root of this self-concern, the root of this self-concern is this feeling of I have a life of my own. This life happens to me. That's the root of our illusion. That's what we need to look at. Why, unlike this wonderful plant, we feel so uprooted, you see? We feel like we are not coming from anywhere, and that our I am is like a capsule that holds within it a bundle of identities, while we know, death tells us, I'm going to take away all your identities, forget about it. If you think you're a man, you're not. And how much energy we put on, I don't know, sorry, I don't want to be unkind, I respect, and I will explain why I respect, but to devote, because we happen to be born in a feminine body, then we devote all our life to what is called sacred femininity, for example. And we begin to see everything from that perspective, and try to understand our womanhood and the meaning of it, but this is exactly where we begin to invent meanings. at the root of it all, this I am, that is the core of your consciousness, stands apart, and even more deeply it is not in you, it is everywhere. And we share that. We all share your I am. Yes, I also have your I am. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Your most intimate thing, I have it. Yeah. So that's very invasive, right?
Are you sure you want it?
I'm sure. Yes, I do. Yes. But did I say we all have it? No, this is not true. It has us. And that's what when we realize that this I am is universal, and you may not reach it like in an instant. You may need to look into it. When we realize that, we begin to understand that this life is belongs to something else, and that we all belong to it. It's not a God. We need to think of the whole universe as like one body, one entity. And this one entity has many different experiences. It has many forms. It pours into conscious forms its own sense of I am. It also always gives a very tiny bit of its huge, tremendous presence, and it puts in each of us a seed, and experiences life through us, experiences the world through us. In this sense, you don't experience life. Life experiences you. Even our special perspective, the way I look at things, that obviously nobody looks at things like me, right? I'm very special. So this very perspective is a perspective that is experienced by this I am, by this complete being that you can call life, existence, universe, I don't care. And with each individual case, there are like many special, unique components that when they interact with one another, they create what we call our personality, our unique perspective. Only when you begin to understand what death means, you understand that this experience of life doesn't happen to you. That this unique lens, unique perspective, is something that is experienced through you. So see it like that. Here is one I am, one big I am, showing itself, experiencing itself in many forms in this room. And at a certain point, it will be tired of this perspective or that perspective. It will say, okay, I saw it, I felt it, I felt the way this special combination created longings and created wishes and created fears and created desires in a very nuanced way. Now it's enough. This thing is finished for me. Now let's try another lens. And the universe tries out all possible experiences. And I'm telling you, there is not even one experience that it's going to miss. And that's why it's trying out even horrible experiences, even tragic experiences, and even evil experiences. Because it must try everything that this situation has to offer, every possibility. And yes, when you begin to realize that, then life becomes extremely meaningful. Because then all your fears, hopes, tensions, longings, the whole of the experience of life is something that the universe wants to experience. And yes, even the self-concern, it wants to experience. Even ego, it wants to experience. And limitation. And to feel what it feels to be a human that feels completely uprooted. That's a very wonderful experience, right? Because the I am says, I wonder what it's going to feel like when I'm not I am. I am just a completely suffocated self-experience within a certain form. So even that is interesting to explore, right? So when I was 23 and I realized that and all in one instance, As soon as life has entered this tremendous context of universal life, everything kept going on. All of life and the experiences and feelings and so on. Why wouldn't it? It's so interesting. But without one major element. Without me. And you can start simply by meditating on this feeling of I am. Starting with the feeling that I just am. Just sticking to it, to this pure sense. One day, this I am shows its secret. It opens up and you realize that this I am is spoken by the universe. I wonder if you have questions. Yes, please.
How do you cross the street without yourself?
How do you cross the street without yourself? Is it like a koan? Like a Zen Buddhist question? It's because it's a good one. I would use it. How do you cross the street without yourself? That's even, I'm not joking, I'm not kidding right now. I'm saying even this question is a good question to hold. Yes, so, but you're asking me.
If you want to answer.
How do you cross the street without yourself? I ask, how do you cross the street with yourself? You see, it's so exhausting. We have a false belief that life needs a self. You see. It's always this strange illusion that there has to be, because what is a self? What does it mean? It means a center of experience. And we can't imagine psychologically, and I can understand, of course, as long as we're not meditating daringly enough, when we're not checking what is beyond the frontiers of the self, psychologically it seems crazy. It's completely crazy. It's like, how can you live without a center of experience? Obviously, that's the whole thing, right? This is the experience of being me. And then there is my experience, and my experience from yesterday, my experience today, and my experience hopefully tomorrow, or the experience that I dread that might happen tomorrow, right? And this is, it all happens to me. This is the source of my feeling I am the center of the universe. Everything revolves around me, obviously. But of course, my constant question is, how can this plant do it without being a center?
It doesn't have to cross the street.
Oh. Yeah, so how can clouds move in the sky? They do more than crossing a street. How does the sea manage? How do volcanoes work?
Maybe I put my question, maybe I wasn't probably not that zen. I really literally mean it.
Yes.
How do you cross the street after you woke up and you feel, you're all one with everything? I mean, and now in this dimension, when I want to cross the street.
Of course, in this, what else? Yes.
So how do you cross the street without being yourself?
Yes, I'm still answering it completely directly, because finally there is a street.
The clouds are moved by whatever.
Also you. Okay. Also you are moved. You think you move.
Oh, okay, so that's it. So I don't decide that I want to cross the street, but
you hardly decide anything.
Okay.
We are so nicely programmed by the universe that I don't remember when I last made a decision. Did it ever happen? I'm not sure. It's I could fool myself. I could imagine, of course, that but I'm the sum total of very strong urges that are put in me, strong inclinations, strong attractions. I basically only obey to these urges that are already in me, and that's the reality. If I have a spiritual urge, did I decide to be spiritual? I don't remember such a moment. Just like, did you decide to fall in love with someone? Did you say, I want to fall in love with this person, so let's do it? Oh my God. I only want to live with this person. Come on, we don't decide that. If we have an urge to be a mother or father, we are taken by this urge because in our program it is stronger than the other urges, and that makes us eventually to parents or not, if there are other urges that are stronger. So I definitely didn't decide to be spiritual. I just felt an impulse, and that impulse grew and grew and grew. I only remember saying yes to it. And even when we say no, it's because there is in our built-in program a stronger urge that wants something else more. You see? So the question is of choice is a very problematic question. Of course, because we have consciousness and we have the spark of I am, there is the feeling of freedom of movement. You see. So when we begin to realize that our life happens, it's actually, this removes a huge burden from our shoulders. please remember, it's not like we stop feeling responsible for anything, but even this feeling of responsibility is something that grows in us towards certain people or to certain things. So it's even responsibility is an urge that grows in us. So if you realize that you don't do your life, actually, for the first time, there is a street. What do I mean by for the first time there is a street? There is an actual happening outside of you. You're not the center. It's not located here. It's here. That's where life is here. Life is not here, looking, isolated. And that's a wonderful thing because you're not a person, you are a situation. You are the street, eventually.
If I let go.
Yes, if you let go of this centeredness.
That I'm controlling my life.
Why do we feel that there has to be a center? Yes, please.
So, could we say that talking about my personality is just talking about an illusion, and that I'm just an energy field?
Could we say that talking about my personality is an illusion?
Yeah.
That I'm just an energy field?
Yeah.
No, your personality is not an illusion. Your personality is real as long as the universe requires it as a unique perspective, as a unique experience.
But when it's unique, how can it be personal?
Unique is not personal.
Yes.
These are two different things. Unique is also not special.
Yes.
Yes.
If it's a unique experience, it cannot be a personal experience. So there's no personality.
No, there is no person. Do you understand?
No.
Personality is like you say the flowers don't flower. Personality is a function. It's what enables me right now to express, because I have certain memories, I have certain stories to tell, I have certain gestures that are obviously that characterize me, a certain language that I use as a result of my experience and so on. This is personality, and personality is real. But the feeling that the personality is personal, you see, it belongs to someone. It is separation. It makes me myself and not you. Rather than the personality as a part of life, you see. There are many personalities, just like there are many plants, and that is wonderful. It's just not yours.
So more like a big organ. We are all like a big organ.
Yes.
Moving.
We are. We are. We're not like. We are. We are. This makes sense to us, by the way. In terms of a body, right? A body is like a complex of organs, and it's a certain structure that creates a unit that says I am, right? Now imagine this as the body of the universe. And to the body of the universe, you are an organ, you see? And you are a part of this wholeness, and you don't stand out. The thing with humans, and again, please, it's not a mistake. It's not horrible. No mistake has ever happened in our universe. Everything is going well, okay? We can relax. So, because sometimes we say, oh, so why do I have this ego? This is so terrible. It's like, but you even didn't do your ego. Do you remember doing your ego? Huh? Do you remember doing identity? Come on. It's a natural phenomena, just like plants and rocks. Even the ego. So it's important to relax. And then to understand that even this experience that humans have of standing out of the universe, feeling like they don't belong. They are like, for some reason, they are excluded. Even this feeling is permitted by this being, you see? It's allowed. It's because it's an interesting experience. It's like how to feel inside the universe as a part of the universe, as something separate from the universe. Isn't it marvelous? Isn't it fun? Now, yes, you can say, no, it's painful, but the thing is that to this being, pain is another form of experience. This may sound cruel, but also death is cruel. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's I don't think, from the point of view of myself, it could seem very, very scary and horrible to be a form that's going to die. But from the point of view of a being that has endless experiences, uses many forms and then gets rid of them because only to take another form and so on. That looks astonishingly beautiful. Yes, please.
When we were meditating, I first tried to focus on who I am, and I felt something like a bullet here and many bullets in the audience, and that felt really like we're all bullets, but they were separated. And then when I allowed myself, or were invited to spread myself or spread around, I felt like I could really embrace the whole earth, and that felt very great. But also I saw this body like, okay, how do I cope with this body? So I felt like I could sort of loosen myself from my body, but still I have this body. So how do I step out of the room while having such a enlarged, complete feeling of I am?
First of all, I'm deeply touched. If you can respond in a few minutes to that, then it means it just shows us how easily accessible the reality is. Reality is very accessible. It's just waiting, hanging in the air, like. Can I for one moment be unoccupied? Because as in that moment I'm just feeling the entire space, and it's here. We just need to be available even for a moment. So the description, I would just repeat it shortly because the online viewers cannot hear. the description is first of all that you began the meditation as this constricted or separate sense of I am, and you experienced everyone else, obviously, because the way we experience ourselves is the way we're going to experience the world. You see, if we live in an island of identity, we see everything as many islands of identity. That's obvious. But also when we don't live in an island of identity, the world suddenly has no egos. Do you understand? It's like you don't believe anyone. Somebody can tell you, but I'm fully, and you say, no. You think you have, but you don't. You belong to life right now. And then you say that this, suddenly there was an expanded I am that actually left the body and spread in the space. And then the question is, how could I live like that, right? How could I live in this sense of enlarged I am that is not located in the body? And I know that it's a bit awkward at the beginning.
At the beginning?
At the beginning, it's a bit awkward, yes. And it's okay to when I had my shift at the age of 23, or let's be more honest, when this shift had me at the age of 23, I for 1 year, I couldn't speak. I didn't understand how to be a human at all. I just sat in my room in shock. I also didn't have proper guidance, but so I sat in the room. From time to time I took a walk, I wrote a bit, I met very few people to share my shock, but for 1 year, from the age of 23 to the age of 24, I didn't know how to relate from that state.
That's what I meant.
Okay. So you are getting the response finally. And so at the beginning it's awkward. Sometimes when we are guided more closely at the crucial points of our journey, it can be quicker. There is I would never forget in Autobiography of a Yogi. Do you know this amazing book by Yogananda? And Yogananda describes how his master came to him. It was after many years. Don't get it wrong. Yeah, after many years of very agitated and confused journey, he sat one day and he tried to meditate in his room. And he sat and he tried to meditate and he couldn't meditate. He had such a turbulence of thoughts, and he couldn't quiet himself down. And then his master called him, Yogananda, come. And he became annoyed. He thought, how could the master not know that I'm meditating? I'm doing something really serious right now. Why is he calling me? And he again, so he shouted, I'm meditating. And the master said, Yogananda, come. He said, I'm meditating. And he said, yes. The master said, I know how you're meditating. Come. And then he came, and the master just gave him an energy transmission at that moment. It was at a very specific point in time, he was ready. And as soon as he gave him that energy transmission, he completely felt that he was out of the body, experienced exactly this. This sense of I am just spread. as a seed that contained the entire universe. It just exploded in every direction, and Yogananda realized that his sense of I am was universal after all. And it was such if you read it, it's like it's an unbelievable experience. It's so touching. But then he opened his eyes after all this tremendous experience. And his master here, I don't remember. Maybe I'm confusing it between two stories. I think he told him, he either gave him a broom and told him now sweep the floor, or told him, okay, now let's go and just let's go and walk on the street. But whatever it was, it just pulled him out immediately, and that seemed very unfair, because we think that this is something that is a human cannot live like that. But when you begin to walk or to hold a broom or whatever in this state, you realize that this universal I am knows very well how to sweep the floor. Do you understand? It can do anything because it does anything already. This universal I am obviously lives in countless forms all the time. So it's at the beginning awkward, and because we don't know how to be in both states at the same time. You see? That is the journey of integration. That's why we always need to have these glimpses, and then to come back and to learn how to contain, how to speak to a person, to another person, without contracting, thinking that I need to contract now into my personality for that. You see? And that's, at the beginning it is very strange. You don't know how to speak. Should I return immediately to my personality because this is what I know? That's automatic. Or should I remain in this state, but then I can't speak? So what comes out at the beginning is very funny. It's not very elegant. And it's natural. Don't push things. In my tradition, the tradition I come from, the yogic tradition, they say that after awakening, you need to wait 21 years before you teach. Why 21 years? Because you require that much to be able to embody this full integration of limitlessness and living in the body. It's so huge that you need 21 years. In our age of everything quick and you get an awakening, you immediately post on it on Facebook, and a week after you are already a teacher. So everything is quick. So we can't imagine what 21 years mean, and why would we wait 21 years? But when you go into that deeply, you say, "Oh, okay, yes." Yes, that makes perfect sense. Many years are required. But what is the first key is start enjoying it. Because don't fight it, don't try to understand it, don't try to organize it. Start breathing into it and feeling the joy of this experience. That it's wide and it's broad and it's and when we don't occupy ourselves with trying to think, what am I meant to do? How do you do that? Then just enjoying it, relaxing into it, and then starting to realize that this broadness has its own intelligence. It knows how to speak, it knows how to respond, it knows what to do. It doesn't need you. This talk also doesn't need me, you see. To you, it seems like I speak from a center. That's how I fool you, you see? After 20 years, yes. 20 years, after 20 years, you learn how to fool everyone. That's, I hope it's taken with understanding. Yes. Do you have a question? Did you raise your hand? Yes, please.
Would you say that this is the purpose of it all?
I didn't hear.
Would you say that what you just explained right now is the purpose of it all?
The purpose of it all?
The purpose of like this force to experience life through us.
The purpose of what?
The purpose of like this force to live experiences through us.
Yes. Is it the purpose? The purpose of that this being to experience everything through us? Yes.
So it's being detached from it, and then
Again.
it's being like detached from it, and then going back to this connection with it.
Yes, you mean that it's disconnecting from itself in a way, right? In a way to allow us ego, to allow us centeredness, and it's very important to have this basic experience of centeredness, by the way, because on the basis of that you can freely lose your centeredness. Do you understand? It's just like think of I don't know, a painter that learns how to virtuously paint every shape and imitate images of nature, and then at a certain point he or she can do whatever they want, right? They can do abstract things, they can paint in an ugly way, in a distorted way, but only because they first have this knowledge. So in the same way, we practice centeredness, we create a psychological wholeness in us, and then we can let go of it. We can transcend it. It can be a very minor thing in our being. So yes, that in a way allows this centeredness, what we call the ego, and then if we're lucky, it also, for some reason, it decided to put in us, in some forms, the urge to be able to return to wholeness, while in the body. You see? It didn't decide to do it with most conscious beings. Why? Because there are too many other types of interesting experiences. So it's not like the universal being wants everyone to be enlightened. We shouldn't see this as an ideal. The universe right now fulfills its purpose. When you understand that, you finally can love life, you see? You don't struggle, you don't think, why is everyone ignorant? What does it mean, why is everyone ignorant? Because the universe wants everyone to forget. Do you understand? Why is there evil? Why is there that? Why is there... there is no why. It is justified by its very existence. It's permitted to be like that. Remove the ideal. Don't look at the universe with what it should be. Who are you to even decide that? Right? Everyone needs to become enlightened. Why? Why? No, not at all. Only a few. Because sometimes the universe wants also to experience this extraordinary thing, that while in the body, while in a temporary form, there is also a coming back to wholeness. There is an awakening of the universal I am within a tiny unit of consciousness, and that's really nice. So this is why I'm saying, if we're lucky, it means if we happen to have this urge planted in us, the urge that we call spirituality. So please understand what I'm saying. It's very important. I'm not saying the purpose of life is not enlightenment. It can be the destiny of some. Obviously, you have gone too far if you are here. So, and you are hearing these things, that's too late for you. When we are exposed to these things, they never let us go. But the purpose of the universe is exactly what it does right now. Experiencing countless forms of experiences. That's it. We always separate, you see, life, we start separating meaning, purpose, and what is right now. Forget about it. The meaning and the purpose are embedded in life. They are in it. They hold it. They're not somewhere. You will not experience meaning and purpose more than any time in your life, more than you could experience right now. Just look around. That's meaningful. Really? Okay. That's apparently the end of our talk. So very soon you're going to answer for yourself the question, how could you cross the street without yourself, right? So try it, play with it, and really enjoy it. Take a deep breath and let this vastness that we have explored be the frame in which the experience of life appears. Thank you. Thank you for your listening. It's never taken for granted that we can share such a thing. Good night.
Dankeschön.